Okay, so today we're gonna dive into sustainable fashion,
Mm-hmm.
but we're gonna focus on men's fashion,
Yeah.
and we have a source that we're looking at that frames sustainable fashion in a way that I think will be interesting to you.
Right.
It frames it as not just an environmental concern, but also something that relates to men's style preferences like durability,
Yeah.
timelessness.
Yeah, but classic style.
Yeah, classic style.
Like things that last?
Right. And so we're going to kind of use this source to learn about why men should care about sustainable fashion
Yeah.
and also just learn about some practical ways to adopt it.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah, it's sort of like a friendly introduction to the whole world of
yeah.
sustainable men's fashion.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you were watching like an online video or something like that.
Yeah. Right.
It's
It's
very
public.
friendly, very approachable.
Yeah. But still, it's got some really great points
Yeah.
and it's very strong on the environmental impact of the fashion industry. And the arguments it makes are all about tying in those traditional values in men's fashion to sustainability.
Yeah.
Like I was saying, things that last,
Right.
and quality craftsmanship,
Right.
attention to detail, all that.
Yeah. So our mission, I guess, in this deep dive is to extract some key reasons
Yeah.
why sustainable fashion is actually relevant for the listener,
Yeah.
and then also give you some actionable first steps
Yeah.
so that you can actually incorporate it into your wardrobe.
That's it.
So let's jump into it. Um, okay. So when we talk about sustainable fashion, why should the listener
Yeah.
genuinely consider this?
Well, one of the first things that comes to mind is that the source material really highlights some eye-opening numbers right off the bat.
Yeah.
Like
Big numbers.
yeah, it says that the fashion industry is responsible for about 10% of global carbon emissions.
10%. That's huge.
That's a massive number. And to put that into perspective,
Yeah.
that's more than all the international flights and cargo shipping combined.
So it's not just like a little thing, it's a big thing.
Yeah, it's a really big thing.
Hmm.
And, it's something that regardless of what your style is or what you wear,
Yeah.
this is a significant impact, that level of environmental impact.
Yeah, it really is. And you think about all the clothes that get thrown away, and all the
Yeah, that makes sense.
it's pretty astounding that it's 10%.
Right.
But what's interesting is the source makes a direct connection to what guys already want in their clothes.
Yeah.
It basically says that in men's fashion there's this emphasis on durability
Yeah.
and timelessness and those qualities.
Well, it's classic.
Yeah, it's classic, but it's also sustainable.
Totally. Yeah.
You want your clothes to last a long time,
Right.
to be able to handle daily life, and you want to be able to wear that same jacket or pair of pants.
Yeah.
5 years from now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've got a jacket that I've had for probably at least 7 years. And I still wear it all the time, and it still looks good.
Yeah, and so that's a quality that we appreciate in men's fashion.
Absolutely.
But it's also inherently sustainable.
It is, yeah, and I think that's one of the key takeaways.
Yeah.
Is that idea of wanting something that lasts. It's fighting against that whole
Fashion.
that fast fashion. Yeah, where you just buy something, wear it a few times, and then you toss it.
Right, exactly. And the source is very clear about fast fashion.
Yeah.
It's described as environmentally damaging,
Yeah.
potentially exploitative.
Yeah. I mean, think about the people that are making the clothes.
Yeah.
They're getting paid very little.
Yeah.
They're working in often dangerous conditions. So yeah, it's definitely not a good situation.
Yeah, and you see these super cheap prices.
Yeah.
And these trendy styles, but it's like
Yeah. There's a hidden cost.
there's a hidden cost. Exactly.
Absolutely.
And so sustainable fashion is kind of positioned as the alternative to that.
It's a more ethical way of doing things.
Yeah.
Thinking about the entire life cycle of a garment.
Yeah.
From where it comes from, how it's made, to what happens to it when you're done with it.
Right.
So it's a more holistic approach to fashion.
Yeah, and it's about
Taking responsibility.
taking responsibility for the clothes that we wear.
Right. And supporting companies that are doing things the right way.
Yeah, and so the source actually highlights a specific brand that's putting all this into practice,
Yeah.
and that is Outer Known.
Outer Known. Yeah, it's a great example.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about them.
Okay, so Outer Known was co-founded by a pro surfer, Kelly Slater.
Oh, yeah, I know Kelly Slater.
Yeah, so he's one of the founders, and then the other is a designer named John Moore.
Okay.
And what's interesting about this brand is that sustainability is like baked into their DNA.
Yeah.
It's not just some marketing ploy.
Mhm.
It's really at the core of what they do.
Okay, so what are they doing specifically?
Well, one of the things they highlight is their use of regenerative organic certified cotton.
Okay, that sounds pretty fancy.
Yeah, it is. And it's not just about like avoiding harmful chemicals.
Right.
It's actually about improving the health of the soil itself,
Yeah.
which has all these other benefits,
Like what?
like carbon sequestration, for instance.
Carbon sequestration. What is that?
So basically, healthy soil acts like a sponge that can soak up carbon dioxide from the atmosphere
Oh, wow.
and store it underground,
Mm.
which is a good thing for climate change.
So it's not just about minimizing damage, they're actually helping.
Right, they're actually doing something positive.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It is.
Okay, so they're using this special kind of cotton.
Mm-hmm.
What else?
And then they're also really big on fair trade certified production,
Okay.
which we were talking about before, the ethical considerations.
Yeah,
So that means that the people making their clothes are being paid fairly.
right.
They're working in safe conditions. And so it's a more humane approach to fashion.
Yeah, and so there's this thing called outerworn,
Yeah.
which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah, me too. It's a great idea.
Can you explain it?
So basically, Outerworn is a marketplace for pre-owned, outer-known clothing.
Oh,
So it's like a way to give their clothes a second life.
so like a secondhand shop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's specifically for their brand.
Okay.
So, instead of throwing away your old jacket or pants,
Yeah.
you can sell them on Outerworn and someone else can buy them.
So you could actually buy like a 5-year-old jacket
Yeah.
that's still in great shape.
Right, exactly. And it's probably a lot cheaper than buying a new one.
Yeah. And, there's something kind of cool about that.
Yeah, I think so too.
It's got a little bit of history.
And it's sustainable.
Mm.
You're not creating more waste.
Right, exactly. And it's this idea of like a circular economy,
Exactly.
which is really cool.
I think it's a really smart idea.
Yeah, and it makes their clothes more accessible too.
Yeah, because they are a bit more expensive.
Right.
But if you can buy them secondhand,
Yeah.
then it makes it more affordable.
Right. And it kind of shows that they believe in their clothes,
Yeah.
because they're
Oh,
like,
yeah.
yeah, our clothes are going to last.
Right. They're not afraid to resell them.
Exactly. And so it makes you think about like what happens to your clothes
Yeah.
when you're done with them.
Right. Do you ever think about that?
I mean, honestly, not really.
Yeah, most people don't.
I just kind of get rid of them.
Mm-hmm.
But this is making me think about it a little bit more.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing,
Yeah.
to be more mindful of where our clothes go
Right.
and how they're made and all of that.
Yeah. So outer known is really interesting.
Yeah, they're a great example of a company that's doing things right.
Yeah. And it shows that you can have stylish menswear that's also environmentally responsible
Absolutely.
and ethically produced.
Yeah, and they're not the only ones. But they're a good example to kind of highlight.
Yeah. So let's shift gears a little bit and talk about, what can the listener do?
Yeah.
What are some practical tips?
Yeah, let's get into the nitty-gritty.
Yeah, for building a sustainable wardrobe.
Okay, so the first tip is invest in quality.
Okay.
And I know that sounds obvious,
Yeah.
but it's really about changing your mindset.
Yeah.
Instead of buying a bunch of cheap clothes that fall apart after a few washes,
Yeah.
buy fewer items, but buy higher quality items
Yeah.
that are going to last you a long time.
Yeah. The source actually gives an example of like a durable jacket
Yeah.
that someone's owned for like years and years.
Right, exactly. And that's the thing. You might pay more up front,
Yeah.
but over the long run, you're saving money
Yeah.
because you're not having to replace your clothes all the time.
Right.
And it's better for the environment
Yeah.
because you're not creating as much waste.
Okay. So invest in quality.
Invest in quality. Tip number 2 is choose sustainable materials.
Okay.
So this is about actually looking at the garment tags
Yeah.
and seeing what your clothes are made of,
Okay.
and looking for things like organic cotton,
Yeah.
recycled polyester,
Mm-hmm.
things like that.
Yep.
So for example, organic cotton is grown without all those nasty pesticides and fertilizers,
Right.
which is good for the environment and it's good for the people who are growing it.
Yeah.
And recycled polyester is taking plastic waste and turning it into something useful.
Yeah.
So it's not ending up in a landfill.
Right.
So there's all these different materials out there that are more sustainable.
Yeah.
And it's just about being aware of them and making choices based on that.
Okay. So we got to invest in quality, choose sustainable materials.
Mm-hmm.
What's next?
Number 3, support ethical brands.
Okay. How do you do that?
Well, one way is to look for certifications like fair trade.
Yeah.
that ensures that the workers are being treated fairly.
Yeah.
And then another way is to just research brands, see what their practices are.
Mm.
Are they transparent about their supply chain?
Yeah.
Do they talk about their sustainability efforts?
Yeah.
And, Outer Known is a good example of a brand that does all that.
Yeah.
They're very transparent about their practices.
Yeah.
And then there's other brands like Patagonia,
Yeah.
Everlane,
Yeah.
that are also known for their ethical practices.
Right. Okay. So do some research.
Yeah,
Find out about the brands that you're buying from.
absolutely.
Okay. What's number 4?
Number 4 is embrace secondhand shopping.
Oh, yeah. I like this one.
Me too.
So, thrift stores,
Yeah.
online platforms like Outer Worn.
Yeah, there's so many great places to find secondhand clothes these days.
Yeah. It's like a treasure hunt.
It is.
You never know what you're going to find.
Yeah, and you can find some really unique pieces
Yeah.
that you wouldn't find anywhere else.
Yeah. And you're saving money.
Yeah.
And you're helping the environment.
Absolutely.
It's a win-win.
It's a win-win-win.
Yeah.
You win, the planet wins, everyone wins.
Okay. So secondhand shopping is a good one. And finally, number 5.
Number 5 is practice proper garment care.
Okay. So this is like washing your clothes
Yeah.
in cold water.
Yeah, washing in cold water.
Air drying them.
Air drying. Yeah, instead of using the dryer.
Yeah. Because the dryer uses a lot of energy.
A lot of energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it can actually damage your clothes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
air drying is gentler on your clothes,
Yeah.
and it's better for the environment.
Yeah. It's really not that hard to do.
It's not, no, especially if you live somewhere with a warm climate.
Yeah.
You can just hang your clothes outside,
Yeah.
and they'll dry in no time.
Yeah. So these are all really easy things
Mm-hmm.
that people can do.
Yeah, and they make a big difference.
Yeah. So to kind of wrap things up,
Yeah.
we've learned that sustainable fashion for men,
Mm-hmm.
it's not just like a trend or a fad.
No, it's important.
It's actually really important for the environment. And it also aligns with, what a lot of guys already want,
Yeah,
which is quality, durable clothes
absolutely.
that last a long time.
And look good.
Yeah, and brands like Outer Known are showing that it's possible,
Mm-hmm.
to do this.
To do right.
Yeah, to do it right and to be successful.
Yeah, and it's not just about them.
Right.
There are other brands out there that are doing great things,
Yeah.
but they're a good example.
Yeah. And so we've also given you some practical tips.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you're listening to this and you're thinking like, okay, this is all interesting,
Yeah.
but what can I actually do?
Yeah,
There are things you can do.
there are absolutely things you could do.
You can invest in quality.
Mm-hmm.
You can choose sustainable materials.
Yeah.
You can support ethical brands.
Right.
You can shop secondhand.
Mm-hmm.
And you can take care of your clothes.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're powerless.
No, you have the power to make a difference.
Yeah, and it's not just about like you as an individual.
Right.
It's about contributing to this larger movement.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a collective effort.
Yeah, and so I guess like a final thought for the listener.
Yeah.
Thinking about everything we've discussed,
Mm-hmm.
the environmental impact, the connection to quality,
Yeah.
the examples of brands doing it well,
Mm-hmm.
and the actionable steps.
Yeah.
What's one change
Good.
that you could realistically make
Mm.
right now,
Right now, today.
that you think would have the most significant impact?
Yeah, what's the one thing you can do
Yeah, what's that one thing you can do?
that would make a difference for you and for the planet?
Yeah, so just take a minute and think about that.
Yeah, I think it's worth reflecting on that.
Yeah, thanks for joining us
Thanks for listening.
on this deep dive.
We'll see you next time.
See ya. Bye.